What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and I was going to talk about a game news thing. I was going to do some kind of entertainment thing and pretend the stuff that's happening in my city isn't actually happening and just kind of go on with life. However, I don't want to talk about that. This is going to be primarily unedited. I just want to talk about Keith Lamont Scott, the police shooting, the Charlotte riots, as is trending on Twitter, the Charlotte protest, if you want to call it, whatever you want to say. But I wanted to talk about that for a minute because it's affected my city in a way that I can't really remember ever having it affected like this before. It's just kind of mind-blowing how much this is impacting the society, and I'm not even somebody that's involved in the Black Lives Matter movement or any kind of affiliation with either the police force or anything. I'm simply an onlooker looking on, and as many of you know, if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, I go to UNC Charlotte. That's a fact that's probably out there somewhere, so I don't really mind sharing it here on YouTube, which is fine. But I actually haven't had classes since Tuesday night. Now, I do take night classes, so the circumstances are a little bit different, and this is by my professor's individual discretion. The university is not closed. However, my professors did make attendance optional, and tonight's class actually got canceled because this is supposedly going to be the third night of unrest here in the city, and of course, the actual shooting, the shooting of Keith Lamont Scott, that kickstarted all of this controversy, actually took place about a mile from campus, so let's go ahead and start there. Now, on Tuesday night, I had a film class where we go in and watch this Latin American thing. It's long story short, I was walking to class and I noticed a police helicopter, and I was like, oh, okay, there must be a wreck on the highway that's right next to the school. And so I just kind of kept on going. I didn't really think much of it. Now, on the way out, the helicopter was in the exact same location and it had its spotlight on, so something was officially, off about that. I knew that something was going on. I wasn't sure if it was a robbery. I wasn't sure if it was a holdup, but still, I didn't think much of it. Now, whenever I got home, I saw exactly what had been going on. There were protests. There were just a lot of angry people at the fact that Keith Lamont Scott was shot by police. So let me catch you guys up on the basic, bare circumstances of what has been going on. If you haven't happened to be watching CNN, any kind of WSOC, WBTV, any of the local news stations or national news stations, because I've seen it on CNN, like I said, I've seen it on MSNBC, Fox, all these things have been covering it. But pretty much, Keith Lamont Scott was shot by police on Tuesday afternoon, and there were a lot of, riots, protests, a lot of sit-ins. It just kind of got out of hand later on Tuesday night and continued into Wednesday. Now, the main controversy here is, were police right in actually taking action against this man? The controversy specifically splits between, was he sitting in a car reading a book, or was he waiting on his son reading a book, or was he actually approaching police with a gun? Was he coming around the corner of a car with a gun? That is kind of the thing. Was he armed and dangerous, or was he simply a bystander? And that's pretty much what's dividing people apart right now, and for good reason, because that either makes him innocent and murdered or makes him somebody that the police had to take action against. It just comes down to that. So now, like I said, the protests or riots or disagreements, whatever you want to call it, spread to uptown Charlotte as opposed to the University City area, which I'll probably throw a map up somewhere so you guys can kind of get a gist of where actually this is taking place. But protests started in Marshall Park. They then went to Tryon and Trade, which is literally like Times Square of Charlotte, and everything just started getting out of hand. I know that a Walmart was looted the first night. There were a CVS was pretty much destroyed the second night. There were a lot of storefronts. of Buffalo Wild Wings got destroyed. A lot of stuff downtown. Pretty much the entirety of downtown Charlotte, right near the epicenter is what we like to call it, is in shambles, and people are trying to kind of clean it up and get everything back on track. But now tonight, they're supposedly going to have some kind of something similar, a protest, whatever you want to call it, somewhere else in Charlotte, and it's just continuously building the tension between cops and citizens, and also unintentionally racial divisions, because there is definitely some kind of tension between African Americans and whites, at least from my perspective right now in Charlotte. Even whenever you're just walking around on the streets, in classes, whatever it may be, there is definitely some tension here that wouldn't normally be there unless these circumstances were taking place, and that's just what I'm feeling right now. Now, personally, I've been trying to figure out what exactly the solution to all of these problems is. How can we put all of this behind us and move forward and come together, not only in Charlotte but across the nation, as we've seen stuff in Tulsa and we've seen stuff in Boston and Flint, Michigan, and all these different places over the course of the past couple of years. How can we all come back together and work to make a better society? And there isn't a clear answer here. Obviously, I'm all for the Black Lives Matter movement, but it doesn't seem like there's a definitive end to what they're trying to reach. Like, if you are going on a trip, say you were going on a vacation, you have a trip to the beach, you are trying to reach the beach. If you want to get to the moon, you take a ship and you get to the moon. There is a definitive end point that kind of marks that you've achieved your goal, and there isn't really one right here. There isn't a, we need this person to say something or make a statement and then we are good. It's very unclear what the end point is, and I personally like the idea of all lives matter, hashtag all lives matter, something that's been trending on Twitter recently, because of Charlotte, because of the things that have been going on, and I think that's really what should be focused on more. But there's so much controversy going on that I don't believe it stems directly from any specific shooting. I think that the tension between cops and people and civilians is definitely something that needs to be addressed. But on top of that, which is already a huge problem in and of itself, you've got this ISIS stuff going on pretty much across the nation, whether it be through people coming into the United States or internal sympathizers that kind of can relate to ISIS on some kind of level. You've got that going on. You've got this presidential nomination candidate stuff with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton that's got people at each other's throats because of some of the stuff that Trump has said, because of some of the stuff that Clinton has said, because it's a very turbulent time under normal circumstances to have a presidential election. It just makes a lot more stress in the country, and to have all of this happening on top of that is just creating even a worse situation. Then you've got North Korea and international affairs and the economy and the gas shortage that we've been seeing here in the Southeast. There is so much stuff building up that I believe that people just have this kind of tension, this kind of stress that's been building up for months at a time, even years. People are finally getting to the point where they've had too much. And that's what we're seeing in Charlotte with the shooting of Keith Lamont Scott was just the straw that broke the camel's back, whatever the saying is. That was the end point. That was the tipping point. That is whenever people could not take anymore. And so everybody is jumping at any opportunity they can get to just get out there and make an action, because no one's moving and the tension continues to build. So as for myself and my family, we're not getting involved in any of this stuff. We all three, me, and my parents, we like to stay as observers of situations. We just take stuff in, which I suppose is one of the reasons why I plan on being a journalist whenever I grow up, because I like to watch stuff. I like to see stuff unfold. And this little event right here that has hit home for me in like literally my backyard is something that I'm going to look back on and say, I was there. That was a historical moment for the United States, much like Boston, Flint, Michigan, any of the other shooting locations, any of the other police versus civilian controversies that have been going on. I'm going to look back and be like, I was there in the midst of that. And that just, it blows my mind, and it's still taking a lot of time to sink in. But my family is safe, which is something I hope continues over the course of the next weeks as I'm sure this unfolds, because apparently they're not releasing the video footage as of right now. Now, all of this is still up in the air. People are still trying to figure stuff out. But I hope things calm down. I hope we can get back to normal, and I hope that all of the goals that people are trying to reach, all of the solutions that are very unclear right now, become clear, and that people figure out exactly what they're fighting for. Because at the moment, there is so much turmoil, so much destruction, violence, hate even, that is uncalled for and really has no purpose behind it. And I just don't see what good that's doing whatsoever.